kindness cannot be expressed without love. And love is one of those things that is often misunderstood. The capacity to love is actually a gift. It's actually a supernatural gift. Have you thought about that? The fact that you can actually love somebody, the fact that you can love God, love your neighbor, love people, it is actually a gift. It is a gift from the Lord. And today's passage is the most read passage at a wedding. So it'll feel a little bit like you're at a wedding. But that's okay. That's okay. You'll see what I'm talking about. So if you have your scriptures with you, your Bible, open it to 1 Corinthians chapter 13. 1 Corinthians chapter 13. They call it the love chapter. Now you have to think in terms of this love chapter is part of a bigger conversations on the gifts of the Spirit. So when Paul wrote to the ancient church in Corinth about the gifts of the Spirit, he said, look, the gifts of the Spirit, God put it together in such a way to bring honor to himself and for the benefit of the body, so there should be no division among the body of believers, because all of the body parts ought to show love for one another. So it is in this context of the gifts of the Spirit, the fact that everybody has gifts, everybody is offered gifts, then this chapter comes along. And what Paul starts with verse 1 and says, yet I will show you the most excellent way. Now, clearly, nobody starts a conversation with yet, unless there's something before that. So what was before that? Well, Paul talked about all sorts of gifts. He said, look, everybody's getting a gift, and they're not all the same. In the previous chapter, verse 28, Paul wrote that God placed in the church apostle, prophets, teachers, miracle workers, the gifts of healing, helping. By the way, helping, that's what we're doing today. The gifts of helping, the gifts of guidance, and different kinds of languages and different kinds of tongues. And then Paul says, and yet I will show you a more excellent way than these gifts. He continues on. If I speak in the tongues of men of angels, but do not have love, I'm only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. When he talks about the words, the speaking in these languages, he's talking about apostles, and also talking about earlier in that verse that I talked about the people that speak in different languages. Verse 2. If I have the gift of prophecy, he mentioned just prophecy earlier. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge like teachers do, right? And if I have faith, they can move mountains. Those are the miracle workers, right? But do not have love. If I don't have love, I am nothing, Paul said. Verse 3, if I give all I possess to the poor and give over my body to hardship that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. I gain nothing. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others, even on Facebook. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered, even on Facebook. It is not easily angered. Read that, not easily offended. It is not easily angered. It keeps no records of wrong. Love does not delight in evil, but rejects those, but rejoices with the truth. It will always protect, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. That's the bottom line. But where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Where there's knowledge, it will pass away. For we know in part, and we prophesy. But when completeness comes, what is in part disappears. When I was a child, I talked like a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I put away the childhood behind me. For now, we only see a reflection as in a mirror. Then we shall see face to face. Now I know in part. Then I shall know fully, even as I am fully known. And now these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. Well, as I mentioned, the first three verses match verse 28 in the previous chapter. You can almost go back to back and says, look, you have all these wonderful gifts, but let me show you something totally more amazing. A gift, if you think, prophecy is an amazing gift, if you think miracles are amazing, by the way, I think miracles are amazing. Man, wouldn't that be cool? To be able to do miracles? Wow, that'd be sweet. And yet, Paul, let me tell you something even more amazing than that. And he proceeds with love. And then verses 4 through 7, by the way, this here is the most clear, the most focused, the most powerful words that you can think about what love is. So what I tell people is, look, verses 4 through 7, man, you can't get any more clear than this. Here's a clear passage. No mystery. No, oh my goodness, Pastor Florian, I don't know. I can't read the Bible because I don't understand what it says. Well, here it is. Do that part. And then verses 8 through 12 get into hope. Hope, hope, hope. And man, he hammers this about hope. He says, look, the restoration of all things will come. It's coming. Don't look at all this stuff that, all will pass away. Knowledge will pass away. Knowledge, I mean, we're talking about, right? Knowledge, science, what we know. I mean, we used to know certain things. Like I remember being told that, eating eggs was bad because it's not good for you, for your health. But then later on, well, no, actually, eggs are good. So you should probably eat some eggs. So, look, knowledge passes. Things pass. But what doesn't pass is what the Lord established. What did he establish? The hope. He will establish things back to the way they were meant to be. And in these verses here, 8 through 12, you can almost imagine Paul just saying, look, when the Lord returns, because remember, Jesus promised to return and to restore things back. So Paul's saying, man, when all things will be restored, when all things will be restored, all the knowledge will pass, and we will know as we are fully known. We will be able to see, not these murky window kind of glass looking through. It's like, what is that? No, we will be able to see clearly. See clearly. And here, Paul is hanging on to this hope. Hanging on to this hope. This week, a friend of mine passed away. His name is John. And John and I, and actually Marlene and John and I were on the Parks Committee in Lisbon. And I worked with John in that capacity for probably 15 years. Well, John passed away. If you are part of our wall, a prayer wall, and if you're not, I do encourage you to be part of the prayer wall. I'm going to ask Jackie to make sure that she puts that on our online folks so that you know about the prayer wall. But on the prayer wall, I said, John passed away. It was a little tough for me. It hit me Monday like a ton of bricks. And I'm sure it's even harder for his family. John was a young man who wasn't what people would consider old. But one thing that I noticed about John, especially after he was diagnosed with cancer, I began to notice a change in him. And the change was he was still very jovial, he was a very wonderful person to be with. Everybody wanted to be with John. He was happy. He was funny. He just loved people. But I began to see a change in John, and the change was he remained happy. But something happened where he realized that there's more to this world. And I remember having a distinct conversation with John, and John said, Pastor Clark, I think I probably got it wrong most of my life, this religion stuff. I think I probably got it wrong most of the time. I'm beginning to see now. John began to talk about hope. Talk about a relationship with a God of the universe. And if he's talking about, Pastor Clark, I think about that now. Okay. So John he found hope. In the midst of a disease that was debilitating, John Brighton had found hope. And his family's missing miserably, terribly. And this Thursday coming up, I will go into the memorial service and participate in the grief process. But we don't grieve without hope. We have hope. And that's what is all about in this chapter. It talks about love and hope. And then verse 13 says, and now these three remains: faith, trusting the fact that he will do what he says he will; hope, he will restore; and love. Well, but the greatest of these is love. Okay, so what do we do with this passage? I mean, I'm sure that right now, probably your mind and in your heart are just thinking and processing, and maybe the Holy Spirit is putting things in your head like, you can take it for yourself. But I do want to suggest and share with you three applications that we can do today. And the first one is to practice love. To practice love. See, love is at least two kinds. The Greek word, there's many Greek words, and I won't get into that, but at least in our mindset, in our modern mindset, love is of at least two kinds. The first kind is the kind of love that says, look, you're my friend, you do good things to me, I like you, and because of that, I will love you. I will do good things back to you. Now, the moment you cross me, we're done. You see a lot of that on social media. A lot of rhetoric, like, I love everybody, I'm ready, but you cross me and we're done. The hammer drops, the whatever, So it's a transactional kind of love. You know where we find this kind of love? We actually find it in the Satanic Bible. The Satanic Bible says that's the right kind of love. It's the transactional love. The Satanic Bible it says, look, we love those who love us back. A transactional kind of love is not a godly kind of love. Dare I say, at times it can be demonic. Be careful with a transactional kind of love. With a love that says, I will love you if you are nice to me. The moment you're not nice, we're done. See, the second option is agape love, selfless love. Some of you are wearing the t-shirt in here. It's agape. Agape means selfless love. And you know what? It requires supernatural intervention. Human beings, in our own way, we cannot exercise agape love. Agape love, selfless love, requires faith in Jesus. There's really no other way. Now, you could try to do some acts of kindness every once in a while and be selfless. But to sustain them, it requires supernatural love. And that's the second application. The acts of kindness that we do. The acts of kindness without love, you know what they are? They are as lasting as the momentary clanging of a cymbal. or pots and pans, or clapping. You're doing an act of kindness, and without love, you know what? How long it lasts? It lasts as long as people go, "Oh, that was nice. That was nice. Okay, we're done." People are fickle. Popularity is fickle. So acts of kindness without love, without agape love, in the grand eternity, it's nothing. Unfortunately, sometimes our mindset and our world gives this message that, you know what? In order for God to really love you, to accept you, you've done a bunch of bad stuff in your life. Let's offset that with some good stuff. So, you've done some bad stuff, do some good stuff, and hopefully the good stuff will outbalance the bad stuff so that, you can live happily ever after in the presence of God. It's not quite like that. It's not quite like that. And there's a great image that I love to do with the youth group. I've done that a few times. And there's like, you gotta get a cream pie. So imagine a cream pie, right? So about this big, and I said, who would like to eat this cream pie? All of a sudden, oh yeah, I want to eat the cream pie. I want that. Well, and I said, well, what if I will go to the yard, the neighbor's yard, who has little doggies, and then I take a little doggy remnant that they left in the yard and put it, in the cream pie. Would you eat that? Like, gross! No, man, I would never eat that. Okay, well, tell you, I'll make the cream pie bigger. The cream pie is going to be this big now, right? Would you eat that? Well, if I put the doggy remnant, oh no, man, I wouldn't eat that. Well, let's make the pie even bigger. Let's make it as big as the table. Would you eat that if I put the doggy remnant? No. And we keep on going like this, keep on going like that. I'm saying, what if I fill an entire tanker truck with whipped cream? I take the doggy remnant and put it in there. Would you eat that? No way. See, the good things, no matter how many you do, don't always offset the bad things. You actually have to have somebody that removes the impurity completely. And that's what Jesus does. Do not be fooled by this mindset that, well, as long as I do many good things, it'll offset the bad things. No, it doesn't work like that. In the cosmic economy of God, it doesn't work that way. You need the love of Christ in order to love like Christ. Which gets me to the third application, which is cling to hope. Cling to hope. There's so much stuff right now that wants to drag us down, that wants to put us in a place of depression. The anxiety and depression of young people right now, and older people right now, and middle-aged people right now is through the roof. Cling to hope. Hope is being diminished. Hope is being destroyed. And let me tell you, the only hope that we have, this thing that we cling to, is that Jesus will come through for you. Jesus will come through for you. But Pastor, you don't know what I'm dealing with. I'm like, yes, I know. I understand that. It's temporary. Everything will be temporary, but Jesus will come through for you. One of the reasons why we keep track of our prayer requests in the Agape prayer wall is because we want to make sure we know what has God done? What has God done for us? Where are the kinds of things where we see the glimpses of the hand of God in action? Because those are the kinds of things we hold on to. We say, look, in spite of what is happening around us, we know that Jesus will come through. He will come through. Faith, hope, and love. And the grace of these is love. You cannot love like Jesus without Jesus. All right, so practical actions. Well, the first practical action is start a new faith with Jesus. Take your life, take who you are, and say, look, I am not able to do the kinds of things that I really want to do on my own. So Lord Jesus, take my life, and you do it for me. That's what new faith in Jesus means. So practical action is begin that with him. Begin that journey. A second action is acts of kindness. If we do acts of kindness without love or grumbling, I mean, yeah, I'll go do an act of kindness. Oh man, the last thing I want to do is go work in somebody else's yard because you know what? My yard has tons of leaves and tons of sticks. I got to worry about my yard first. How can I possibly go help somebody else? That's not the kinds of acts of kindness we're talking about. Acts of kindness, the way we're talking about it, requires humility. It requires humility and requires selflessness, which can't be done with a human mindset. It has to be supernatural. So one thing you can do is check your heart. Check your heart. Are we doing the acts of kindness because, man, drudgery? While you're raking leaves, you keep on thinking, oh man, my leaves are raking. The more you spend yourself, the more you will receive. It's a mystery. I don't know why that works, but I'm telling you it does. Check your heart. Engage in acts of kindness with humility and selflessness. The third practical action is hope. We talked about hope. Now let me tell you that hope is one of those things that has to be cultivated, has to be nurtured. If you take a plant, you put it by the window, but don't give it any water, it's going to atrophy and eventually die. Hope is a little bit like that. Hope needs to be cultivated, needs to be strengthened, needs to be fed, needs to be active. And the only way I know how to do that is the only way I know how to strengthen hope is in community. In community. I know of no other way. So when we get together, when you go spend time with your neighbor, when you say, hey neighbor, how are you? Hey family member, hey aunt, like Jackie said, how are you? What can I do to help? When you do that, when you come together, when you say, you know what, I have a question on this Bible thing here. Here's how I read it. Or, oh my goodness, I had such an amazing time with the Lord. I'm so happy about this. Let me share with you. When we share our joys, when we share our sorrows together in community, we cultivate hope. So my friends, those are the actions, things that you can do right now. Start a new relationship with Jesus. Acts of kindness, do your acts of kindness with humility and selflessness, and cultivate hope in community. We need each other. We need each other.